We did get out to Badwater, I think it was 3 days before the race, so that we could do some shakeout runs. And the first shakeout run, I was scared. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And they're like, no, it'll get better tomorrow, watch. And sure enough, it got better every day. But that first 30-minute run, I'm like, oh my goodness. You just can't, you have to experience for yourself what it feels like to be that hot. And the heat's coming up off the ground, and it's just not cool. And I researched all the clothing, so I had the right clothing. The cute little white hat that's covering your whole face, and wearing the white clothing, and having the buff with that's soaked in water, or having ice in it and stuff. But it was a very interesting race because your van is with you, and you're stopping every mile for your runner. Like, that's how quickly you're going through a water bottle. And with Badwater, your pacer can mule for you. So I'm holding a water bottle for my runner and for me as well. So I just have two. But it's every mile you're getting a new one, you drop your old one, you get a new one, and they all have salt in them. So you got to make sure your runner's taking salt all the time. Putting water on his head, putting water on my head. But it was doable. Like, by the time I was pacing, it was definitely like a slower pace, right? So it was doable. I think I did a total of 33 miles out there.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. We are Jess and Beej, and we have thankfully been blessed to share so many stories of so many epic people on this earth. Today's guest, Coach IzzyB, is no exception. I met Izzy shortly after I moved to San Diego with a new purpose to complete my first ultramarathon. And since knowing her, although we don't see each other often, I have watched her level up in so many ways over the years. It's always such a great treat to join one of her UltraBud group runs or just running into her on the trails, which happens from time to time. Izzy plays so many roles in this life, and she's just another guest who leaves us with no excuses. She's the president of Janovick Communications, a marketing strategy firm. She is founder of UltraBuds running group, co-founder of Ghost Runners Coaching alongside YTP guest Vera Stepina from episode 196. She is an ultra runner herself and an obstacle course racer, currently training for the Dallas Spartan Ultra 50K, which includes over 60 obstacles. I would describe Izzy as driven. She completes what she starts, and she continues to grow past her limitations as I see her empower her athletes to do the same. When she's not out there crushing it for herself or her athletes, she's in service of others. She recently paced a friend at the Badwater 135 and just announced that she's the race director for the North County Beer Run. So how did she get here? Well, that's what we're going to dive into and more. Izzy, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That was awesome introduction.
No, seriously, girl. Like, I see you, like I was saying before we hit record, like I'll see you walking down the street with kettlebells, or you're doing hill repeats, or you're on the trail, or you're pacing someone at Badwater, or you're volunteering for a race, or you're organizing people to volunteer for a race, and now you're a race director. And it's just so cool to see, we haven't even known each other that long, right? Like maybe 4 or so years. And I know just from our trail talks that we had on the trail early on, like I've just seen you grow, like bust through limitations here and there. Like I even think I remember you saying like Spartan, like, no, thank you.
You're right. I was like, and now I'm doing the Spartan Ultra Beast. Like, how did that happen?
I know. So how did that happen? Let's dive into that. Talk about this race. Like, talk about how you got to thinking that doing over 60 obstacles is something that's a good idea on top of running an ultra.
Yeah, so the gym that I train at, MROC, it's an Oceanside mud run obstacle course gym. And I actually knew the owner before he opened the gym through trail running. So I went there, just to do strength and conditioning, because it's very important. Lifting weights. He has a lot of pride with his coaches. They, really watch your form and everything. And if you're lifting too heavy, they just take the weight off, you're losing your form. So I trained there and, got into Spartan racing. I'm like, okay, I'll try one. So they're pretty fun. It's a different type of challenge for me, cause I lack upper body strength. So I usually throw in 1 or 2 Spartans a year just to change things up. I don't want to get burned out with ultra running and, it works all different types of muscles and you're sore in different ways. When you think you're in good shape, you go to an MROC class and you'll find out real quickly that you're probably not in good shape. It puts you in your place. So I think it was 2 years ago, one of my girlfriends, we do ultra running. I teach her ultra running. I trained her, coached her to do her first ultra, and she's really good at Spartan races. And she went out and did the Spartan Ultra in Iceland. Like, wow, crazy. Her and another friend, two ladies, friends of mine, went out there, and I was just so impressed with that. Like, that's like the hardest one. There's ice everywhere. There was only a few hours of daylight, right? So I'm like, I gotta try one of these ultras. Like, everyone says I would do really good at it because I have endurance to stay out there. And I was intrigued with the amount of females that even enter this division. So Spartan races are huge, but the Ultra division, I think we saw the numbers. It's an average of only about 187 men enter it and only about 35 ladies even compete in it. And so I'm like, ooh, that's kind of cool. So before COVID, I signed up for the Dallas Spartan and, got canceled. So this is a deferred. So I have it coming up next month in October. So, and you get a purple shirt, a purple jacket. So it's like, sometimes this race swag. Every Spartan distance has a different color, and I don't have a purple one, so.
So what was the entry level Spartan that you did?
I did the sprint, which is like a 5K. So,
okay. And then how many obstacles in there?
Oh gosh, how many obstacles in that one? Maybe like 12 or 15.
Holy shit, that's a lot over the course of
3.1 miles.
3.1 miles. Thanks for doing the math. I was
and
like,
I always
on that.
race. I don't race the open heats. I race the age group heats, which means if you fail an obstacle, you have to do 30 burpees.
Oh,
yeah,
sounds great.
Yeah.
And what is that the only difference between the age group and the open race?
The open race, you can have your friends help you over obstacles. Like if you can't climb a wall, someone can give you a boost. It's more fun. It's more entry level. You don't have to do the burpees. If you really don't feel comfortable doing an obstacle, like, hey, I really can't do a rope climb or I'm going to fall and really hurt myself, you can just skip it. Whereas age group, you're going to compete for an age group award, a podium. And so all the obstacles count. If you miss it, you have to do 30 burpees, or once in a while they'll have a different type of penalty, like you'll have to run an extra loop. And then there's the elite division, which is like the sponsored athletes. So there's 3 levels, which is kind of cool because there's something for everyone, Like my mom's going to do her first one, hopefully soon. Just, she can. It's an open, if she doesn't feel comfortable doing an obstacle, she can go around it or something, or have people help her.
So when you first walked into MROC, like you can tell us like, oh, it was strength and conditioning, but there's a part of you that was like, oh boy, like I know what I'm walking into, like I know where this is going to lead, kind of thing?
Yeah, because I had already known the owner and knew the level he was at, and he's a very serious businessman too. And I'd gone to a lot of gyms and they're kind of wimpy. And I didn't really fit into the CrossFit gym because I think it wasn't enough running for me, those who do CrossFit. I don't really like to lift heavy. I lift to mainly stay injury free and because it's good for you. And I'd never been introduced to obstacles before, so I thought, this is a pretty cool gym. So the first workout I went to, I got my ass kicked, and I'm like, this is going to be worth it. This is what I need. I need an ass kicking gym. So I signed up right away.
Sounds like you like the challenges. Sounds like
I do. I love the challenges.
Looking at the ratio you gave of men to women, and suddenly your eyes lit up. Like, oh my God, this is something I have to do. Like, has that always been a drive for you? Like, do you feel compelled to not prove something, but when you see that, the lack or the I guess the opportunity, you just dive right in?
Yeah, I like to try things and see what I'm capable of. And I mean, I've gotten DNFs just like everyone else, but I learned from it and kept going. My first 50 miler was a DNF, but I learned so much from that race. And I'm like, I could do this. Maybe I should try a different course and change things and, hire a coach. And sure enough, my second 50 miler was an amazing experience. And so I keep doing them now. And I'm signed up for my first 100 miler. I've never really been intrigued with the 100-mile distance. It just, I didn't really care. I kind of wanted to get faster at the 50K. And I've never really had time to train for it either, because there is a lot of time involved to train for a 100-mile run, with work-life balance, my family and stuff. But then they started coming out with these 200-mile races. And so I'm like, geez, I got to up my game now. At least need to do a 100-miler, like at least just one. So I have my first 100-miler in January.
Which one is it?
It's Cold Water Rumble. It's in Arizona. It's one of those Air Vapor races.
Oh,
cool.
that'll be so good.
Yeah.
They run such a great show.
They do. And there's probably I think 6 of us UltraBuds going out there. It's George Greco's 74th birthday. So I'm like, if he's running a 100-miler at 74, I think I can do it.
Is he doing the 100 mile? Is this his first 100 mile?
It's his first 100-miler, yeah.
Okay, that's somebody else that we have to get on the
Yeah,
show. Because
he's amazing.
Minimally trained.
Because didn't he just, first of all, he did I think it was the Zion 100K on 20 miles a week. He keeps having these experiments of one, which I love, the experiment of one. Let me see if I do this. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he started running close to being 60 or something like that.
Yeah. And he runs an ultra every other weekend.
It never fails. I'll be out. If you're here in San Diego and if there's an ultra, that George is going to be there. But I've run into him at rest areas, in the middle of nowhere, and we're going to the same race, he's just amazing. I can't believe you guys are doing the 100. That's awesome. Well, I can't believe it. That's
with
so
our
cool.
crew and pacers, there's going to be a big group of us out there, and it's his birthday that weekend. So we're just going to have a blast. The course is 5 loops, so we'll see everyone, 5 times. So that's pretty fun. My husband's going to come out. He's going to run the last 5 miles with me. So that'll be cool.
That's so cool. Where is it in Arizona? Is it somewhere?
Goodyear? It's called Goodyear. I think it's just an hour north of the Phoenix airport.
Oh, that'll be such a great race. What a cool experience. And then I saw leading up to that, you're doing Kira's Ray Miller.
Yeah, I've never done one of her races, and it's the timing's perfect. Her 50-miler, Ray Miller, the timing's perfect for training for the 100. So,
yeah, I love Kira. We had her on the podcast. She's got a good mind.
Yeah, that's how I met her. I was a co-host on a podcast with her. So
cool.
I was the one asking her questions. I was like, "You're so cool. I want to do your races." And then she's really good friends with my coach. So again, small world.
Such a small world, yeah.
It's
and now
all
she's
connected.
Race director of the Lake Sonoma 100K.
Yes.
Which is amazing. So super cool. I love this community. And I love that you can be out there on the trail, and sometimes you and I will run into each other, and it's always such a highlight, because you never
You just don't know.
You just don't know.
Yeah.
It's super fun. So leading into this Dallas Spartan Ultra, are there any obstacles that you haven't done before, or any that you're
I'm
boy,
scared. And Spartan keeps changing obstacles. There's this one obstacle called the Olympus that I'm usually able to get in races, and they have it at the training facility. And then I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 6 months ago, they changed the material of it, so everyone's been falling off of it.
What's the Olympus?
The Olympus is a wall, a diagonal wall where your hand grips are either on a hole, a chain, or kind of like a rock climbing mold, and you kind of traverse across it. And they changed it's some plexiglass material now, and everyone's slipping off of it. And they're always throwing in new obstacles, because I keep watching the videos of the race that just happened, and then Big Bear's coming up, and there's a bunch of stuff I have no idea what to expect. That's part of the challenge.
Is the training facility near? Can you train on? Is it nearby? Do they have many locations? Or
it's just one location. It's in Oceanside, so it's super close to us.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's the MROC gym.
It's by Trader Joe's. It's 5 minutes from your house. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do you hear her sucking us in?
Yeah,
I know.
It's 5 minutes.
Well, my question,
and she must know that you love Trader Joe's.
I'm always there, twice a week. What so far in your journey, because these are new adventures we're talking about. What has been the split of strength and endurance? Let's talk about, because we're merging 2 worlds here.
Yes, it's very
strength,
hard.
Yeah. So what has it been so far? Is it 70% endurance, 25% strength? Do you find is a good balance?
I feel so I work out 6 days a week. I have a full rest day. Sometimes I take 2 rest days. I tend to rest more than regular athletes mainly because of my Meniere's disease, my ear problem. It just fatigues me more. I need to rest more. I sleep 8 to 9 hours a night. Like that's what I need. I take naps. So I work out 6 days a week. I have my 2 long runs, Fridays and Saturdays. And then during the week, I'll do doubles. So I'll do a Spartan class and then followed by like an hour run or something. I do a track once a week. So I do a speed work. I do hills another day. My coach makes my whole plan for me. So I'm doing MROC probably 3 or 4 days a week. Friday's my longest run. Saturday, I'll do the UltraBuds run for an hour and then I go to MROC. So by the time I go to MROC on Saturday, I'm like already dead. But that's good because that's the ultra race. I'm going to be dead. So
yeah, you want to fatigue yourself to the end and then see how you stack up, because it's easy to go out fresh and hit your paces and do the strength work. It's when we get to that end, that last 10%, that last 15%.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like today I went and did MROC this morning and then I have track tonight, but I'm pretty busy today so I won't get my nap in. And the dogs are very helpful with that. They're always down to nap.
Yeah, you're also. I did not mention that in the intro, but you are a big dog lover and a lover of pitties. And I've met your babies, and your youngest one is Romanoff, who's not so small anymore.
75 pounds. Yep. She's 2. She's going through her terrible 2s.
All right, so let's dive into your story a little bit because you've been a lifelong athlete. You used to play basketball, but tell us a little bit more about your roots, like basketball, and then you had kind of a life-changing experience as well, an accident, and to see where you are today is quite beautiful. So take us through like your story, like when you became like an athlete.
So I started playing basketball and competitive swimming when I was 5. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Brooks Street swimming pool in Oceanside. Yes. That's where I grew up swimming and competing. It's still there.
It is still there.
My dad was
odd distance.
Yeah, well, that was like the only pool around when we first moved here. My dad was a big athlete. So he coached me because I was on all the boys' teams. Back then, there was no girls' teams. So he coached me to make sure that I was treated fairly and, was played. So I did travel ball for basketball, got into high school, did competitive swim and basketball. And then I wasn't really having fun anymore. It was really competitive and political. Now that I look back, I'm like, maybe team sports wasn't really for me. Maybe I'm more like individual competitive because I loved swimming, which, I mean, yeah, you're on a team with swimming, but you're really not on a team. It's kind of like solo. So I had gotten into skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, growing up in San Diego. So I actually quit my senior year of high school team sports and I did a ton of snowboarding, surfing, and vert ramp skateboarding. When I was 19, I went snowboarding and I broke my back snowboarding going off a jump. So that was like a life-changing moment for me. I just remember laying in the snow. I felt it, I heard it, and I just started screaming. I wiggled my toes. They got to me super quick. The mountain people, I was laying there for about an hour in the snow while they put everything on you safely, like your neck and everything. And the doctor said that that's probably what saved me from being paralyzed because my back didn't swell because I was laying in the snow for a good hour. So very thankful for that. I was in a body brace, no surgery. I was in a body brace for about 6 months. After 3 months, I was allowed to do swim therapy, which was amazing. So that really saved me. And then just being athletic before the accident really saved me as well. So it was definitely depressing, 19-year-old before social media is out, not being with your friends. And luckily I was still living at home and under my parents' health insurance. Phew, because that could have gone bad. But yeah, and I tried snowboarding again a year later and it just wasn't fun. I was just scared the whole time. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. So I got into boot camps. During that time is when boot camps first came out. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got introduced to trail running. So I got introduced to the trails. I had no idea that there were even trail shoes or a hydration pack. I'm like, what are all these backpacks everyone's wearing? So that was super fun. And that's actually where I met Nicodemus Holland. I don't know if the ultra runner, he's one of the finishers of Barkley. He's actually the youngest person who's finished the Badwater 135. He finished it when he was 19 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
wild.
I didn't know who he was or his crazy resume. I just like, oh, that's Nick who does boot camp with us. And he wanted to start coaching. So I was one of his first clients as a runner, and he was a coach, and he got me into ultras. Next thing you know, I'm running the Lake Hodges 50K, and it's couldn't stop from there. I just loved it. And having Nick be my coach, like the best supporter and motivator, it was just awesome. And that's kind of when I started UltraBuds too, because there wasn't really anyone around for me to train with. There weren't all these running groups back then. So I started UltraBuds. There was 4 of us. And then it's grown to, I don't know, we have over 800 people in our Facebook group now. So it's pretty fun.
God.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like, I know I don't join on a ton of the runs, but when I do, it's just always so fun to meet new people. There's always different paces. There's always super fast people off the front. There's people walking, like they just come and they walk, or they walk, run it. So how has this sense of community assisted you in like moving past, like, oh, I'm not cut out for 50 mile, or I'm not cut out for 100 mile. Like, how has this sense of community that you've created assisted you in moving past things that maybe you never thought you would move past?
Oh man, I can't believe the amount of amazing people I've met. And now there's like, 8 different running groups, trail running groups in San Diego. It's amazing. We all do collaboration runs together. We all motivate and inspire each other. You don't have to worry about finding a crew or a pacer because you have someone in your community. And me being a marketing person, social butterfly anyway, I just love meeting new runners and talking and helping people. And that's kind of how it turned into the coaching later. We wanted to help people. Like, there's so much that you don't know for your first ultra. Like, it's not just running, it's mental, it's hydration, nutrition, gear, shoes, like the hydration pack.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about mental. Like, what do you consider like for your mental training? What does that look like?
For me, being uncomfortable in certain situations, like being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So say I know there's a race in the wintertime. Whenever it starts raining, I go out and run in the rain on purpose. So that come race day, I'm mentally prepared. Hey, I've trained in the rain. I know it's going to suck, but I know what to expect. Or if I'm training for, like when I was training for Badwater to pace, I know it's going to be hot out there. So I trained heat training for 3 months. I would go out the hottest time of the day, fully clothed, sometimes wearing a rain jacket, and I'd go out there and run. And it was miserable. It was hot, but I had people in my community to come join me. There was always like 2 or 3 people who would come with me. They weren't wearing all the clothes like I was, but they were there in case I passed out,
And if you needed some psycho to throw on a rain jacket and run with you, you could find somebody.
Probably, yeah. There was a few of us. So putting myself in those uncomfortable situations, running in the sand. I had to do something. There was some race coming up that there was sections of sand. So I went to the beach and put on my hydration pack and ran in the sand in Carlsbad. So, and it's not fun. Like now I'm doing a ton of burpees on the side because I know I'm going to be doing them at this Spartan race. And who wants to do burpees every day? But but
you're doing it.
But it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
How much does specificity play in training for you with these Spartan races and trail races? Is it something that is a big focus, or is it let's dial it back and let's get the basics in where we're running the mileage, we're doing the strength, versus like practicing burpees, practicing in the sand? Like, is that as important?
I like to be specific with my training, and that's why I hire a coach, even though I've done a lot of distances and I'm a coach myself. There's still so much to learn. And so I actually have a coach, Jeff Browning. He's the one who holds like the second most finished 100-mile races. I think he just had a record. He just got first place at the Mogollon Monster 100-miler.
Yeah, I know that
set a new
name.
Course record. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's just amazing. So he just spells everything out for me. And me personally, I like structure. I like, tell me exactly how it is. My Garmin connects to Training Peaks. He sees everything. I like structure. Some people like more flexibility, but That's just how I work. And I would rather be over prepared. I would rather take my time and train, 8 months for a 100-mile race instead of 4 months, even though I know I have the endurance.
So as a coach, right? So it's you like to get the data, hit the thing, do the laps, do the thing, like 8 reps. I do 8 reps. I don't do 7. I don't do 9. Follow the plan, right? Plug it in, upload it. But as a coach, what about those athletes that maybe are like, oh, my Garmin's not connecting to Training Peaks, or, well, BJ, you probably know more.
I didn't have enough time, so I did.
Yeah.
I ended up cutting the warm up short and the whole workout short, and just did 15 of the reps because I only was short on time, or I didn't do the workout at all because the day got away from me. So as a coach,
I'm definitely flexible with people, and I mean, there's times where I have that problem too. Especially sometimes with my Meniere's disease, I'll be like, hey, I had a really crappy day today, and I just took an extra rest day. Or work gets in the way sometimes, or traveling, like, hey, I just got back from traveling and I'm exhausted. So I totally understand. I get it. I have Zoom talks with my clients ahead of time, and I kind of ask them, what kind of work do you have? What do you do? Like, what are your hours that you work? How many kids do you have? All these different things that take place. Which rest day would you prefer during the week? Let's work around that. What days are you going to be traveling? Like, let's be realistic when you're on vacation. Are you going to be able to get your runs in? Is there a treadmill nearby if you're staying at a hotel? Like, so I am realistic with them.
Yeah, I think, and I was just on a call with someone yesterday, I don't think the problem for most athletes is like getting the work done. It's like setting up the expectations of how much time you really do have to train. Like, let's remove the pressure of like, I should be doing more, or I should be getting in, and let's talk about what actual time you do have, and let's build around that, right? Yep. And be really successful at that. And then we can start to create maybe some long sessions or longer sessions. But it's never a factor of like, in my opinion, having a motivated athlete, because they're coming to you for a reason, right? They're seeking coaching, so they want that next level. It's sort of like holding them back and getting the best out of them with the lifestyle, the 360-degree picture of what's happening in their life. Yeah.
And then I give them warning, like, hey, this is going to be about the time that's your peak weekend for your race. Don't make any plans that weekend. Trust me. You're just going to want to, like, take a nap after this, Or explain to them ahead of time, hey, you ready for a 50-miler? Like, this is about the time that's going to take training-wise. Like, realistically, will this work for you? If not, we can extend your training plan and pick a different race to give you more time,
What has coaching taught you about yourself? I mean, I know being an athlete has taught you a lot, but what's coaching taught you?
Coaching has definitely taught me a lot of patience, flexibility, and that there's still so much for me to learn too, I think. Yeah. And so I'm always growing, learning. Even though I'm a teacher, I still go back to school. I mean, I took 2 classes over the summer. I took advanced Excel, like amazing, like, I use it all the time. Why not take a class to learn more things I could do with it? I took Google Apps, and right now I'm in a class taking web presence and e-commerce to learn how to do a Shopify page. So I'm constantly like learning new stuff too.
Absorbing. Have you always been like that? Like just wanting to learn?
Yep. I always liked school. My brother didn't. So I was the easy one for my parents. They just like, my mom said she would punish me. Her way of punishing me when I was a kid was to take away like my pencil and paper, because I used to like to write a lot. Such a nerd.
And attention to nutrition too, right? Do you help your athletes with that, like fueling and when to eat, what to eat?
Yes. So Vera Stepina, my business partner with Ghost Runners, she is certified in all the strength and nutrition, all that. So she does that side, and I do the running program side because I'm certified with all the running coaching and all that. So
she recently had a shirt on that said F macros. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a joke though. Like all her shirts are so funny. I count my macros. She gives them. She actually helps me and gives them to me, and she's kind of like my little therapist sometimes. She asked me very hard questions. I'm like, I can't just give up these Pop-Tarts. And so she digs deep. Why can't you give up the Pop-Tarts? People that know me, I have a Pop-Tart addiction.
You do have. I've known that. Yes, and I also have known you to like you like beer, right?
Yes.
But you have I would say like an awake relationship with beer.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you find that balance between, your love for beer and, and also not compromising your athletic potential?
Yeah, so I am a craft beer snob. I love beer, and I was recently introduced to the Topo Chico's hard seltzers. Those are amazing too, and I'm a wino, so it's like, and I love tequila, so, but
that is quite the span.
But I also have my priorities and what's important to me. Like I'm not the type of person who goes out there and parties and gets drunk. I like to drink by myself in the couch, or after a long training run, I'll take a beer in the shower with me. Like that's how I enjoy myself. But when I have a serious race, I cut out alcohol for about 4 to 6 weeks before a race. So I take long breaks, and then I'll drink, celebrate afterwards for like a week, maybe 2, and then I cut it all out again. So
how do you like? Is there a mindfulness piece, like an awareness piece? Like, are you aware? Like, do you have those impulses? Like, okay, I'm getting to the race. That means I can drink again. Like, I can drink again, or
no, not too much. Because once I stop drinking after like 3 or 4 days, I kind of forget about it. Because you just feel it's not good for you. I feel inflamed when I drink beer. My workouts are sluggish, just all the negative things with alcohol. I just like the taste of it. To me, it's like, like people like ice cream or cake or cookies. Like I like a good craft beer. So, but yeah, I feel so much stronger when I'm not drinking. That's why I cut it out for like 4 to 6 weeks while I train hard, recover quicker, faster.
Mm-hmm.
What does your nutrition look like leading into a race? Maybe like the 48 hours leading into a race.
48 hours leading into a race. I do my big carb load 2 nights before race day, and I do a lot of sweet potatoes. A lot of veggies, a lot of sweet potatoes, and a lot of salmon. So I call myself an Isabella-tarian because I'm not necessarily like a vegan or a vegetarian, because if you get down into details, I do eat eggs, a lot of eggs. My body works fine with eggs. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they can't. I eat hard cheeses like cheddar cheese. So what do you call those? Ovotarian? I don't know. Pescatarian. So there's so many different labels. I just call myself an Isabella-tarian. I just eat what I like and what I know fuels my body. So a lot of salmon, sweet potatoes, and actually a lot of broccoli. Broccoli and I do fine.
I'm a big fan of broccoli. What about the night before the race?
I eat a lot of rice, white rice, and salmon, and I actually eat frosted mini wheats. I know it's bad. I know it's like a random thing.
That's so
I have like a little small bowl of frosted mini wheats. So it's like my comfort food. Everyone
and I take that into the shower.
Yeah. Especially when traveling, I do not eat out before a race, like traveling, because I'm so paranoid. Like, I don't know what the restaurant put in the food. So I always like check to see where the grocery stores are. And I'll just buy like simple things like cereal, oatmeal, and rice. Just like carb load on that the night before. I won't even eat fish out if I'm traveling somewhere. I'm just too paranoid.
Yeah, so people who are traveling, like a lot of times are like, well, I have no choice. And I know BJ and I have become very resourcul with what you can do in a hotel room.
With a microwave.
With a microwave and a refrigerator. So what are some things some tricks that you found to stay on task with your nutrition if you're traveling?
Yeah, I bring all my own Spring Energy. I do like boba bars. I bring my own protein powder, my own oatmeal. And then at the grocery stores, you can purchase like because I do coconut milk. So I'll do my own coconut milk. Get that at the grocery store. They have little rice things that you just put in the microwave. Super plain rice. I've seen those at the grocery store. I can always find oatmeal there too. And then my cereal. So it's just really plain. And then I just do my own protein powder for protein. just because I don't want to eat out. Now, after the race, that's fine. I'll eat out. I can, risk getting food poisoning, but I don't know. I'm just paranoid before a race. I just want to make sure my stomach's good, and I have to eat a low sodium diet because of my ear problem, my Meniere's problem. So that's another reason why I don't like eating out too.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So explain to people what that is.
So about 6 years ago, I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease. Usually people don't get it until they reach their 60s. So lucky me.
You're just an overachiever. I'm just going to bring this thing in early.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of a hard disease to diagnose. And it's what happened was I kept getting dizzy, super dizzy after running or doing stuff, workouts. And I'm like, maybe it's my hydration, nutrition. And then I started getting ringing in the ear, and I started losing my hearing in my left ear. And then I had a vertigo attack, and I'd never had vertigo before. And it was on a day I wasn't running or doing anything, and it actually really scared my husband. He's like, that's not good. You need to go to the doctor. So during that time, I actually went to my urgent care doctor a lot because she was really cool, and she had helped me with stuff in the past just because of the number of years of experience she had. And she said, I think I know what's wrong with you, but I'm not an ENT, an ear, nose, throat doctor. But I think I know what's wrong with you. You need to go see this ear, nose, throat doctor. I worked for him for many years, and he will be able to help you. So I said, okay. So I went and saw the ear, nose, throat doctor. He's like, I have a feeling it's Meniere's disease. I'm going to try some tests, do different things. I need you to track everything, how you feel, how you eat, your workouts, and then report back to me. And so I reported back to him with a book, and he's like, whoa, you really took notes? I'm like, heck yeah, I'm not messing around. So yeah, I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease. I lost about 40% of my hearing on my left ear. And, but I've been able to control it with diet and exercise and one medication that I take at night before I go to bed. So I'm not on a ton of meds. It's one medication, and it's actually the same medication they give you for altitude sickness. So it works out kind of good with my mountain running. Yeah, so
vertigo. So how would someone know that they're? Because I wouldn't know. What is a vertigo?
It's absolutely horrible. Vertigo is when everything starts getting dizzy and weird around you. It's almost like if you've been super duper drunk and your head's spinning, but there's no way to control it. You can't. I'll throw up. The trash can's next to me, I'll throw up. And what they have me do is they help me to take an anti-nausea over-the-counter medicine and a Benadryl. So the Benadryl knocks me out. So I go to sleep, and you just sleep it off. The worst I've had is 4 days in bed. It just completely debilitates you. And a lot of people, it's worse. They'll be out for a couple weeks, and they have to be on disability for their job. They just can't work anymore. You can't do anything. You can't listen to music. The room has to be dark. You can't even watch TV. It's just that bad. So, so I'm able to control it with exercise. I make sure I'm on my sleep. I have a low sodium diet, no more than 1,500 milligrams a day, which is nothing if you read labels. The only time I'm allowed to have more is if I'm sweating a lot. So on long training runs, I can have more salt. So with the salt pills, with endurance athletes, I would say most athletes take 2 pills an hour. I take 1 every 2 hours. So I've been able to control it, and I've been really lucky with my races. I did 100K earlier this year, and I had no problems. I did a 50-miler 2 years ago, and as soon as I got in the car for the drive home, I was throwing up the whole car ride home. So nothing happened during the race, but it happened after. So it just depends. Every race is different.
Yeah, the conditions, the heat, because I'm assuming the hotter races are the ones that you would probably mostly need more salt.
Yeah, but I did fine at Badwater.
Yeah.
No problems at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it would, on paper, it would say well, you need to say no to Badwater. Mm-hmm. You can't say yes to this.
On paper. Right.
So what goes on in the paper in your mind when you hear when you get an opportunity like that?
I mean, I never know if it could go one or two ways. So why not try it? Because it could end up amazing, right? I ran the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim, and I had no issues at all. So it's just, you never know. I went and did one of Jeff Stoner's 10Ks, and I got super sick, and it was a 10K. So it's just, you really just never know. So until I try it. So
there's people out there that are they're just paralyzed. by something like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and you have this adventurous curiosity about what you're experiencing in your life. So how do you, and it may just be, you may not even have an answer for it, but how do you just keep going? Like good races, bad races, but you just keep showing up with a perspective of like, oh man, whatever happens today is supposed to happen.
Yep, exactly. It's exactly how it is. And I make sure that I have a ride after races. You know, most people, they can drive themselves home. Well, I know that I might have an issue after a race. So, you know, I'll make sure that my crew or pacer knows that they have to drive me. I have my medicine on me, anti-nausea medicine on me. Vera knows now that she carries throw-up bags in her car because that was her car. That we were,
she has a nice
the
car.
whole drive home.
I wouldn't want to throw up in the Russian's car.
Luckily, she has 3 kids. She's like, oh yeah, this has done this lots of times. So yeah, it's just I haven't lost any more hearing in my ear, and just again controlling it with diet. That's another reason why I cut out alcohol too, because alcohol can make it worse. So, I drink half calf decaf, half calf coffee, so half calf, half decaf, because too much caffeine can trigger it.
So it's just finding out. It's like finding out what works for you, right? So
yeah.
When athletes say like they're trying to figure out what works for them, and they're looking at what you're doing, they're looking at what your other athletes are doing, how do you assist your athletes in finding out what works for them? Because the plan for you is not the plan for me, and it's not the plan for Beach, right? Like we got to be empowered to find out what works for us, but not be too scared to blow up.
Yep. And one of the things I have my clients do is I have them do days where they just do time on their feet and they're hiking, not running. And that's the day where they're out there, they're testing gear, they're testing food, they're testing hydration, nutrition, and I have them take notes of what they ate that day. So if they do have like a bad stomach problem or something, at least they knew on a hike and not some like crazy run where they, poop their pants or something, because that can happen too.
It does happen.
There's a lot of poop talk with our clients. Endurance athletes, right?
Yeah.
And then we give them
trail runners.
Especially trail runners, yeah.
Yes.
And then Vera is very, with the nutrition, she tells them like, I can tell you what I do. Izzy can tell you what she does, but you need to go out there and experiment all these different foods. Like, here's a list of all the things that you could try and see what you like and what doesn't like. I know a lot of people who do hard-boiled eggs during runs. I can't do that. I've tried it and it didn't work, So it's just like an example. And Vera and I eat completely different. Like, we talk about it all the time. I like tuna melts, and she thinks that's the most disgusting thing ever to put fish with the cheese. Like, and she eats weird things where I'm just like, oh.
And she's not drinking at all. Like she stopped drinking about a year ago. I just saw a post of that of her. So it's like finding what works for you, and like what works for me is that I don't have spans. Well, if I have spans that I don't drink, it's not planned. It's just anytime that comes into my awareness, I just have a check with myself. Like, do I want this? I smell it. Like, does this smell good? Sometimes it smells like poison. Sometimes it smells like my best friend, and it's just finding out what works for me, not in the whole grand scheme of things, but in the moment, because it'll be different from day to day. It'll be different from that first glass of wine to an opportunity to have a second one. Okay, like now let's go back and check it again. Like what's tomorrow look like? What time do I want to wake up? Like how,
exactly.
And that might seem like a lot of work, but it's not a lot of work. I think it's just getting in touch with who you are in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we did it the other day. We were at our next door neighbor's house and they were all drinking shots of tequila and I didn't want to, no big deal. They don't care. They know how I am. And running, and then as soon as my watch said 8:30, I said, good night, it's time for the sweatpants to go on, because I'm waking up early in the morning to go train, so. And they know. They don't care, They think it's awesome.
Do you think the biggest opportunity in nutrition is just that athletes don't take in enough?
Take in enough calories?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Not in my experience. I've seen some athletes do that, but not all of them.
What do you see?
Yeah.
Probably that they don't experiment enough with different foods, or they're eating not real foods. They've always learned about goos, the chemicals. So, or if it's a road runner going to a trail runner, they're really into the goos and the chemicals instead of real food. And you're like, hey, why don't you try like some potatoes? Something super plain, you put a bunch of salt on it. So just opening their eyes to different types of like whole foods, I guess, and less chemicals, and having them read the labels on, you know, the different drinks they're drinking. Like, you know, like, hey, look at the labels of a scratch drink versus the drink that you've been drinking, or like a Gatorade. Look at the ingredients and see what's in it. Like just opening up their awareness with that.
Yeah, awareness. Isn't that a huge component? Like, because we build up these habits of things that we believe are true and believe work for us. And in most cases, it's just a story that we created. We created ourselves, and we start sharing with other people. So how do you, that's one way to make people aware of their nutrition. How do you, I know we're asking you a lot of coaching questions, but how does your awareness get peaked? Like how do you bust maybe yourself out of a routine so that you're more alert to maybe some habit that you've created in the moment?
Oh, that's a hard question.
Or mindfulness tools. Like, is there a mantra or something that gets you reset back on the target at hand, or maybe don't fall off too often?
No, I definitely fall off. I'm human. I guess just goals, like looking at my goals, like, hey, I signed up for this race, you know, so signing up for a race and looking at my time. Hey, I have this race in 4 weeks and I'm still not getting this one obstacle, like, or I need to go practice a spear throw. When's the last time I threw a spear? So, and then I use my calendar a lot. Everything's color coded in my Google Calendar. So I can put little notes in there of what I need to do. And that's kind of how I keep on track. Having a coach helps because, you know, getting that Training Peaks email every morning that tells you what you need to do that day, remind you. Having a good gym helps with the level of coaching we have at my gym. Having a community of friends, like if you don't show up to something, or saying like, you know, just talking smack on Instagram. We talk smack to each other a lot. Like, make sure you don't fall off. Hey, haven't seen you in a while. Are you alive? Like, when was your last long run? We talk a lot of smack.
I love that.
I was listening to a podcast you were on with Jeff's podcast, the Trail Life podcast, which thank you very much for turning him on to me, because I loved our conversation. It was great. He was so funny because he wanted to bring me on about being a vegan athlete, and he was just like, I have no idea, you know, I just know I need to eat more vegetables. I don't do a very good job.
So funny.
He's so funny. Heat training. Let's talk about heat training. Like we just, well, not we, but BJ just competed at the Ironman 70.3 World Championship. Okay. So a week prior to that, if you looked at the weather, it was like 100 degrees sunny, 99 sunny, like it just looked like a hot day. On top of that, the way that they scheduled the age group starts, the last wave was starting at 10 a.m. This created a lot of panic for people about the heat, brought up a lot of stories about the heat, experiences that they had had in the past and all of that. So, and I look at that not as being wrong, but man, that's a huge expenditure of energy to be so panicked about something. And I know that you are big on heat training. You can talk, you're well-versed on heat training, and you've experienced it leading into Badwater and of course other races. So let's just dive into that topic of heat training, anywhere you want to start.
Yeah, so I'm thankful that I have a pretty flexible work schedule. So during the week on my short runs, I can go out at 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock for my runs. And I'm also thankful that I have a few buddies in the area that live close by that have flexible schedules too and are willing to go with me, because safety first. It's possible I could pass out on the trail, you know, so I want to have a buddy with me. I have my phone with me. If I'm out in the mountains, I'm just not alone. And I'll load up on clothing, wear a bunch of clothing. I make sure I have extra water and ice in my hydration pack. I make sure I have a mini cooler in the car waiting for me so I can cool down afterwards. There's no problem with cutting the run short if I'm just like not feeling it, or if I'm like, hey, I really can't wear the jacket the whole 2-hour run. I take it off. So obviously safety first. With my clients, if I know there's going to be a hot race, like with Black Mountain, I'll tell them Saturday and Sunday don't start at 6 or 7 a.m. You guys need to go out later in the day because you're running a 50K. You're going to be out there until, 1 or 2 p.m. So go out there at 11 or 12. And if you don't feel comfortable running in the heat, hike. So, that's the day. Do time on your feet, on the course, Black Mountain, hottest time of day on Saturday and Sunday. So, I did have my clients do that. And I said, the more you do this, the more it's going to benefit you on race day. And of course, it did not get hot before Black Mountain at all, and then on race day, it's hot. Of course, that's always happened.
Well, that's how Black Mountain is. It's got to be hot.
Yeah. Same thing with Badwater, too. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's only 80 degrees. This is horrible. I need it to get in the hundreds. Like, I'm going out to Fallbrook and Bonsall.
So leading into that, that we had Sally McRae on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and, she was big on the specificity, doing a hard workouts up the Mount Whitney Portal Road, and then going out into the heat and running like on the flats. So to go from we had a very cool spring here too. Like we had a cold. Let's just talk San Diego talk here. It was cold. It was downright cold in June.
It was like 45 degrees.
It was cold. It was like 60 some days. How did you bridge that gap between, the coolness of San Diego, knowing you're going to temps of like 125? So did you go out like Anzo Borrega Desert? Did you go out into the desert like that?
No, I didn't have time to be able to. The farthest I got out was like Fallbrook, and I would just read the weather and go out in Poway Escondido, like the hottest times of the day. I'd try to go out there and that's why I wore my layers all the time, the clothing. And we did get out to Badwater, I think it was 3 days before the race, so that we could do some shakeout runs. And the first shakeout run, I was scared. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And they're like, no, it'll get better tomorrow, watch. And sure enough, it got better every day. But that first 30-minute run, I'm like, oh my goodness. You just can't, you have to experience for yourself what it feels like to be that hot. And the heat's coming up off the ground, and it's just not cool. And I had researched all the clothing, so I had the right clothing, the cute little white hat that's covering your whole face, and wearing the white clothing, and having the buff with that's soaked in water or having ice in it and stuff. But it was a very interesting race because your van is with you and you're stopping every mile for your runner. Like that's how quickly you're going through a water bottle. And with Badwater, your pacer can mule for you. So I'm holding a water bottle for my runner and for me as well. So I just have two. But it's every mile you're getting a new one. You drop your old one, you get a new one, and they all have salt in them. So you got to make sure your runner's taking salt all the time. Putting water on his head, putting water on my head. But it was doable. Like by the time I was pacing, it was definitely like a slower pace, right? So it was doable. I think I did a total of 33 miles out there for Badwater. Yeah.
Did you have one section or a couple sections?
Different sections, yeah. So luckily our crew chief was the runner, Jonathan Gunnarsson. It's his coach. So that was great. So coach just said, hey, told us when and where to go in. Like, hey, there's a climbing part. We want Isabella to go in. She's more of a climber. Hey, this is a fast downhill. We want the other person to go in fast downhill. Like, yeah.
Did you feel any pressure?
At first, during training, yeah. I'm like, I can't mess this up. Like, luckily my coach knows Jonathan too, so he's like, you're gonna be fine, I'll get you there. And I'm like, I can't mess this up. He said he wants to be a top 10 finisher again. Like, he wasn't looking just to finish a race, he top 10 finisher.
Yeah, so you gotta take care of your pacing is so tough at like long distance races because you gotta it can't be about you, but then it has to be about you, like in this kind of secret way, because if you're not if you're not tending to yourself, like...
Yep. And that was a big part of it, too, with this race. Like, pacers have to make sure they're taken care of. They're telling the crew chief what they need if they're not feeling good. Because, yeah, there's definitely been issues in the past with his crew and pacers getting sick and stuff. And so that was a big fear of mine, too. I have never seen so many runners throw up before. At Badwater. Like,
where was Vera when you needed her?
Oh my gosh, I know. I didn't get sick. There was a couple times where I'm like, hey, I need to take my ginger tabs just in case. But for me, it was the sleep deprivation, because for pacing and crew in Badwater, you're in the van the whole time driving. So you're just getting little naps here and there. It's not like where you can sit at an aid station. You're like, hey, I have 3 hours until my runner comes. I can totally sleep in the car, you know? It wasn't like that. It's a lot of sleep deprivation.
Well, they talk about the runners getting a little delirious, especially in the later stages. Did you have any like awkward conversations, or was there any sort of like incoherent stories?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of weird talk toward the end, but you know, you're all tired and you just go. Nothing too crazy with my runner. It was his 8th time doing it, so he kind of knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he was.
That was another thing that I was lucky about, because he had his routine down. He knew he was very organized. He knew the course, like, hey, this is where I need pacers. This is the time I'm going to be here. I'm going to need this, like the van, it's organized. Like I went with people who knew what they were doing. Because, you know, you always see the new people when it's their first or second time and you're like, whoa, I'm glad I'm with this group.
So when you were asked to do it, like, what was that moment like? So
originally I met Jonathan through Izzy. He's one of the athletes and I'm the team manager. So getting to know each other on Zoom, I'm like, wow, I'm so intrigued with this race, but I have no desire to do it myself, but I would love to like check it out, you know? So we kind of like joked around like, oh yeah, you should come crew me and you know, all that stuff. And then we got to know each other. I'm like, hey, Izzy, like we can do a whole marketing campaign around this, because we had 2 runners doing it. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Like, you could totally crew. And so I just originally thought I was just going to crew. And then next thing you know, he's like, yeah, so you're going to run this section. Like, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm pacing now. Like, rad, I could do this. This is another new challenge. I called my coach. I'm like, hey, so I'm pacing Badwater now. And he's like, all right, let's do this.
I love it. I love it. You're just up for anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't mean, so being up for things and doesn't mean you're not going to be scared.
Oh, yeah, I was scared the whole time. Like, I can't mess this up. Like, I didn't tell him any of that.
Right. How do you move forward, like, when you're scared like that? It's not an absence of fear.
Well, I guess, like, I kind of tell myself the same thing. Like, you know, I'm trying my best. You know, I work for it. I have all the tools. I do all my research. I read about everything. There was another San Diego friend who was also pacing the other Izzy athletes. So we did a lot of talking to each other and would motivate each other. Like, hey, it's going to suck, but we got to go out there and train in the heat, you know, like let's do 20 miles in the heat type of thing. And then the community I'm around, they were really helpful too. When I'd have to do my short training runs, like I'd be tired and like, oh, it's so hot. They're like, hey, you got to heat train. You got to do this. So having my community behind me, and my coach helped a lot too, and just being a part of it too. I still have no desire to do the race, by the way.
I was going to ask you that. No desire.
I'm good. It's too much road for me too. It's a lot of road. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it all road pretty much?
It is. Yeah. I mean, you got some little dirty dirt sections, but I was wearing my road shoes the whole time.
Yeah. How did he finish? How did he do?
He did good. He got 8th. He got 8th place.
Nice.
So yeah, he had an amazing race. I'm pretty sure it was his best one so far. Yeah. He was right after Sally. Yeah.
Oh, very cool. Oh, wow.
Yeah. We were right after Sally. So we kind of saw some back and forth throughout, and I got to meet her after the race and stuff. She did a really great speech at the after party, and just so inspiring. She just pretty much said this was like a 10-year goal for her to win that. And I'm like, what? There's still a chance for me to like do something crazy? Like, yeah. And the fact that she's like older, you know, and has children and still out there doing it, sponsored by Nike, like, yeah.
And she thinks she can cut a few hours off too. She thinks she can go faster.
Man.
Which,
yeah, she's
even
not.
She threw up. Yeah. Everyone was throwing up out there.
Yeah, she's not done. I thought she was going to be like, yeah, that's, you know, like, like, and she was like, oh no, I've already like put my name in for next year. Like she's going for it.
I love it.
Being in that, as we wrap this up, being in that community, like being a part of something that obviously you loved, I'm assuming you'd probably go back and take that opportunity again to pace, but you have no desire to do that race. But listening to Sally, being with your runner who met his goal, like what's a takeaway from that that's going to fuel you moving forward into
Oh,
these?
I am so pumped all the time because I get to, being a team manager for IzzyB and Spring Energy, I get to talk to professional athletes all the time. And every time there's like a race now, I'm following it to a T, like the live tracking. And then I'll call my coach that week and be like, I want to do Hard Rock one day. And he's like, whoa, settle down. Like, why don't you come out and crew and pace Hard Rock and then we'll talk. And then I'll like research it. And then like we'll talk later. I'm like, just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But, but it gets me all pumped up and excited, But I am actually really contemplating on doing Moab 240. I'm actually going out there next month, and I'm working the finish line for 5 days with the race director. So I'm going to see what that's all about. Because that's another one I'm intrigued on, because all these people are doing 100-mile races, but there's not that many people doing the 200s yet. Mm-hmm. Like, it's still, like, growing. And there's, like, one guy from San Diego doing it, but that's it. There's no girls. I'm like, where are all the San Diego girls? I haven't seen any names put out there for the 200s.
It's waiting for you.
Yeah.
So, and have you heard this yet, that the 200s are actually easier than the 100s?
Well, there's a different strategy involved. Yeah. So I've gone over the strategies with my coach. He coaches Mike McKnight. Mm-hmm. Who just won the last 200, and didn't he just break the FKT on the Colorado Trail?
Trail,
yeah. Mm-hmm. So again, I feel like I'm in very good hands, and Mike is shooting for sub 50 hours at Moab 240 this year.
Oh my gosh,
that's what he's shooting for. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I'll be out there for 5 days if I do it, 5-6 days, but it's all a different strategy. To me, in my mindset, it's more like fast packing.
Yeah, because in Katra Corbett, we did like a little mini podcast with her a couple years ago, I think, after
she talked about the 200.
Javelina, and she was saying like, oh, just do a 200. They're easier because of the time cutoffs. Mm-hmm. The time cutoffs are so generous that you've got time. Like there's napping station, like sleep stations and all of that, which is... Wow, I know that definitely has my attention as well.
And then my buddy who does it from San Diego, I don't know if you guys know Hector Rodriguez. He's doing Triple Crown this year, so he couldn't do the second one, Tahoe, because it got canceled because of the fires. So he created a 200-mile route here in San Diego. So I was a big part of that, supporting him, going out there and pacing him for miles, doing that too. And I'm like, I think I could do this, so... Putting the feelers out there. Yeah. We might have to do another podcast next year.
Absolutely. We'll be following you. How do people follow you?
On Instagram, Ultra IzzyB. I'm also on Facebook too, but I don't post that often in Facebook. I use it more for Facebook groups for UltraBuds, but I'm always on Instagram. Yes. And feel free to send me a DM if you want.
And if people are local, how do they join UltraBuds? How do they get involved with your group runs? When you can
find UltraBuds on Instagram, Facebook. We run every Saturday morning at Lake Hodges at 6:30 a.m. We meet at the Sunset Drive trailhead. All levels are welcome. If I'm not there, I have 4 run leaders who help. And my mom is also the walk leader. She's 69 years old, so there's absolutely no excuses. Like, get yourself out of bed and get moving.
I love it.
Rain or shine.
I love it. I hope to run into you soon. Maybe I just need to get my butt out of bed and join one of those Saturday mornings again. I haven't been there in a while. So I've been dabbling back into triathlon and being on the road and stuff. But I love having it all. I love doing it. I love doing both of those things.
Yeah.
I love the trail and triathlon. So, but I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
I really enjoyed it.